Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, the view that's behind this gentleman that I get a chance to record with is exquisite. This is Peter Williams. He's the founder and CEO of Luna Park Creative, and he's going to give you the anecdotes and secrets to his success and the journey along the way, because it's not all beautiful like that background he's in right now. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. Really nice to be here and nice to talk to you. And yes, I'm quite happy to live in California. It's a beautiful, beautiful state for sure.
Yeah, I was in the southern portion just a week ago in Los Angeles at the National Social Media Awards. So I would tell anybody who's afraid to start. I started in my basement, and now I get a chance to be at events and award shows because I had the courage to start. And we talked about that mental state before the recording hit, and you have a lot of accomplishments. So please, I don't want to overtalk you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, well, I'm doing a lot of different projects, to be quite honest, at the moment. So Luna Park Creative, which you mentioned, is sort of the newest of my ventures, and it's inclusive of the creation of products. So I do own a design agency. It's called Design Nerds.
Yes,
and that agency has been around for we're going on 12 years now, and I spun off Luna Park Creative as a place to kind of do my own explorations of creativity in the space of product design. So with that, I've created so far 2 consumer goods. Yes. One's called the DRYE Fan, and it's
badass, man. I saw that, man.
Yeah, it's cool. And that one just came out of, if you're familiar with camelbacks, and I like to do adventures. I like to do backpacking, hiking, and all that stuff. And my camelback, when I'd get home, I'd put a spoon in it to dry it out, and it would take a couple days or a week or whatever, and it drove me nuts. So I took just a powered, battery powered fan and rigged a little cap to it that would attach to mine, and it would blow air in there and dry it out. So I thought, this would be something that I think a lot of people would be interested in. So went through the process of production for it.
How does a person like yourself, so for that person that's sitting at home, that's sitting, man, and thumping their head, how can I create? That came out of something you do that you enjoy, that you saw a problem that needed to be solved. So it really, at its core, is not that difficult. And people beat themselves up all day trying to figure out, when in reality, your gift or your talent or your solution could be staring you right in the face the entire time.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't create the fan, right? I mean, that's a product that exists, and I didn't overcomplicate the solution. Really, it's about what can solve this problem, and the answer was relatively simple. It just took a little bit of effort to consider what was feasible. This is the first product I've created for myself, and I didn't want it to be too complicated, so I found a manufacturer who makes fans. They make handheld fans, and that's a common product in countries where it gets really hot. And so I just worked with them to redesign the configuration of it so that it would function for what I'm doing. So yeah, I would say anybody who's sitting at home thinking, I've got this great idea, I want to figure it out. There are a lot of steps to the process, but, I would say don't overthink it. A simple solution is sometimes the best solution.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, and this is just from even my experience of doing a podcast, right? I'm fortunate enough that somebody's not going to be, camping and depending on me and my little pea brain here to be able to, dry off what they have. I get to be the guy who gets to interview people, right? But like my fear was starting, right? Because you start saying, well, somebody has a studio or they got the best boom mic and all I have is a laptop. And you start diminishing yourself before you've actually hit that go. When in reality, it's the truth, right? Because you have to start. Like if you're like, let's say if you're baking, right? You have the styrofoam in your kitchen. You have you're writing the name on there, and you're like, well, I may not start because that doesn't look like the restaurant down the street. It's like, don't do that to yourself, man. Don't just start.
Yeah, I think you have to be motivated by providing a solution, right?
Yes.
Or providing a service of some kind. And if you are capable, if you're good at doing the thing that you're passionate about, there's really no reason to hold back. I think that the fear of failure is probably what stops most people. But if you don't try, you'll never know. And if you do fail, there's so many learnings that come out of it. There have been a lot of hiccups. Yeah. A lot of hiccups along the way of doing this, by the way. I mean, I've learned a lot in the process. And, I'm still, even now that I've created this product, I'm selling it. It's available. But, I'm learning from feedback from, the people buying it that, it needs further adjustment. And, it's all I can do is take that information and apply it to what I'm doing to make it better.
Right.
But, you got to just take that as part of the process. And,
how has the reception been, and how has, the solution and feedback? Did you start with like a small circle of people that you do your activities with outdoors, and then obviously you tried it yourself, and then did you go to like conventions and trade shows to really try to bring your name out there?
So I'm in that process now of really trying to get the word out on the product. So I absolutely use it myself. In fact, now when I do a hike with my wife and my kids, we all bring camelbacks because when we come home, it's easy solution to dry them out. So I'm using the product, the camelback, way more than I used to. And so that, it's actually provided, some joy to me that I can use this thing again, because I stopped using it because it was too difficult to deal with after. And then I gave some to friends once I had them produced. I gave them to friends so that we could all share in it. My wife is a runner and she does trail runs. So she's participating in something called a Ragnar race. So she's done a few of those, and it's a relay race with a team. And so I've sponsored the team. She's doing a run in Oregon for Ragnar, and I sponsored the team. And then the other ways of outreach. So I'm doing your podcast, but I've done a couple others to talk about it. But then I'm also it's available on Amazon. I'm trying to do some advertising. There are a few publications that have written about it. So there's a mountain biking publication that wrote about this as finally a solution, and then otherwise, I'm planning to attend, marathons and races so that I can showcase it there. And the ultimate goal is to get it into retail.
Of course.
I think if you go to REI and there's a camelback and next to it is the DRYE Fan, the solution kind of end-to-end scenario is what I'm after. So I'm working pretty hard to get it into retail. And I've found that that's a pretty big challenge, actually.
Yeah. I was curious about. Yeah, I hate to cut you off. That's what the curious step. I was going to be curious, like how does that process, that behemoth work when it comes to this?
So it's, there are buying agents for all these retail outlets, and, it's pretty tricky to get a hold of them and find the right person. So I'm putting my best effort into that. For REI specifically, they have a program called Project Greenlight, where you can submit your product and then they do an evaluation and determine if it should go in stores. So I've submitted to that and I just haven't gotten an answer back from them. But for all the other big stores, Dick's Sporting Goods, even Walmart, whoever, I'm going into avenues of, these buyer groups where you try to get in front of the buyers with your product. And without question, it's a slow process. Yeah. So, my hope is that, enough people know about it that maybe the buyers say we should get that in the store.
Well, I think the worst action is inaction, right? Because like if
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able, like, if it starts getting larger in California and Oregon and Washington, particularly the region that you're in, then by default that buyer may even be a hiker, right? Like that could be in one of those
Right.
retail stores. You're like, oh crap, I didn't know I needed this until it was available for me, right? And then you have to also look at it too, is that person is probably, or those people are inundated with probably thousands of submissions.
Oh, yeah.
And then, they have probably an assistant themselves or a team that has to vet. So it becomes a slow moving process because unfortunately so many people are vying for their attention. And that's when you have to do the work as the entrepreneur.
Yeah. So, speaking of the work and getting it out there, one of my goals for this product was to actually get it into Camelback, and meaning into their brand. And so I did some research to find out more about Camelback, and there's a parent company called Revelist. And I contacted their chief financial officer and the president of the company, just cold messaged them on LinkedIn and said, hey, I created this product. It's patent pending. It's an accessory for one of your brands. Would love to show it to you. And they put me in touch with their head of R&D. And just like you said, they see a million of these things, right? And so at the beginning of the call, he was kind of, what are you going to bore me with today? And I showed him a video that I had created to promo this product, and by the end of the call he said, we should talk about licensing. So that's the ultimate goal. And it hasn't happened yet because I haven't proven that I can sell to the masses yet. So
of course
I think they're waiting for me to get traction, but they're interested.
Well, listen, as a guy who started a show, like in order to actually get anywhere, and the gentleman that I'm interviewing who's been successful, you already have figured out that that they're going to say something, but you're already working on it in the meantime, right? So like if I want this show to get picked up, I can't just suddenly say, well, I did 100 episodes, where's my deal? Right? Like I have to keep recording and keep recording and keep recording until eventually I get a deal or eventually I get to that quote unquote mountaintop. So, because it's so cutthroat and so hard to get a product in stores, that that you always have to keep refining it. You always have to keep going to that next race. You have to go to that next camping site. All of these things you have to do. And you wear multiple hats because on top of that, you're a family man too.
That's true. Yeah. Well, you're right. Yeah. You got to keep going. It's a grind. I mean, I'll be honest, it's a grind. It requires daily attention,
oh my gosh.
And discovery too. I think it's really important and I'm sure it's the same in your field, that, you learn more about the industry as you enter into it. And so you learn more about, who you need to talk to and what the processes are. And so, I don't know all these things. I'm learning as I go, but it's interesting, for my design agency, we're talking about these kind of the fundamentals of who we are as a company. And my first one is to be curious, which is this ongoing, education for yourself. And
Absolutely.
that curiosity of, how the process works, how things go is really important.
Right. And I think no, I apologize. I thought you were going to go ahead, please.
Yeah, you're right. I'm a family man too. I've got, I'm married. I have 2 kids, 2 dogs, and they're younger. We're busy, but I find that,
This episode sponsored by Homebase. Homebase is built for small businesses trying to do it all. The neighborhood coffee shop, the local gym, the family-run restaurant. With Homebase, you can schedule your team, track time, run payroll, and manage hiring from one easy app, so you can spend less time chasing timesheets and more time running the business your customers love. More than 150,000 small businesses already use Homebase to keep their teams on track. Start free at joinhomebase.com. Homebase, built for small businesses that do it all.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
There's not a lot of separation here between work and home life because they complement each other. So
Absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to do, is complement my home life with the work life.
Right. And the other thing about it is too, is like, this is just a little nugget that I had to figure out to get this off the ground, to the show. And this for your product. Anybody who's listening, if you're not going to have your kid tugging at your leg for your attention while you're trying to get something off the ground, you're probably not in for it for the long haul, because at some point, you're going to have to you're going to have to miss things. You're going to have to somewhat, politely say, no, I'm doing this to get this off the ground. And you have to be able to be okay with that. Right. And you have to have a willing supporter partner to know that if you do want to get, your DRYE Fan to be the next, massive camping accessory, hiking accessory, etc. There's some tears that are privately being shed along the way, because you wish you could be doing other things.
Right. There's some sacrifice required, certainly, a sacrifice of time and some of those things. But I try to, there are ways to incorporate it into the life where, I want my kids to learn from this entrepreneurial sort of spirit. And I did from my family too. I was around, my dad who had started a business and my grandfather who had started a business. And so I want to pass that down to them. And so, I mean, one of the components of the kit for the DRYE Fan is this wire that will help you dry the drinking tube. And I created this wire that holds these little microfibers. Well, there's nowhere to get those microfibers produced at that size. So I cut those for every kit. And so at night, when I'm done with my day job, I'm cutting these things and putting them into each box. So, it's fine. There was no one who could do it. So the solution was do it yourself. And that's,
Yeah, it's funny. And, when we talk about lifelong curiosity, like, it's funny because, I started with an encyclopedia set in my room as a kid. I always have to thank my parents, for having that, my late father, right? But, like, knowing that having always something accessible to read, and obviously now with the internet, it's exploded. But at its core, at its absolute core, the Wikipedia, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, it's still a vessel of information. YouTube, when you start going down that wormhole, you're like, man, how did that work? How did that function? How did that create? And then you watch documentaries of what people did thousands of years ago. You're like, they had nothing but their mind to figure out what worked and what didn't.
Right. And a drive to learn still. Yep. Right. I mean, and doing it, you're right. They were doing it the hard way. We have it easy as far as I'm concerned. Because I can just look it up. And that's, it's how I built my career for the design agency too, is I didn't know how to do something. I just look up a tutorial and learn and then put it to action.
Right. And for them, it was life or death. Like if you live in, the Sahara Desert and you need to create a place that has cooling that gets brought in and out, that has the early central air in like ancient Egypt. Well, now you can just call your local HVAC company, right? But they had to actually design places that either brought water to an area that didn't have fresh water from that lake or that pond to a centralized city location. So they had to create aqueducts and things of that nature. So a lot of things that, are readily accessible for us, we can just turn on a tap, that's an easy thing to do. But you start to realize like they had to do that out of necessity to live.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good point. A lot of the things I'm making are not necessities, but they are life enhancements is what I'll say.
Of course.
And, the dawn of AI in our lives has provided me with, all these other possibilities. So I'm building a software platform for my company, for the design agency. And I was able to start basically from scratch. And it, not really, because, I've got these AI tools helping build the code, but you can now imagine something and just create it. And that to me is phenomenal. So beyond doing physical products. I'm doing software products, and
Of course.
it's really exciting to just have now this whole new set of tools that I know nothing about, but can jump into and do the same kind of learning all over again.
Well, see, that's the other leg to this stool that I started to figure out. Like, it depends on what stage you learn it at. But if there was ever a time to get out of your little comfort zone and learn something or create something, this is the best time to do it, right? Because there's so many things that are accessible. I can't tell you, oftentimes people look at people who are successful. I get a chance to interview all these entrepreneurs every single day on my show. And I was like, man, how do you get in that room? Well, you get in that room by providing value. You get in that room by providing drive and curiosity and perseverance and doing your homework, right? So, you guys create. I get to talk about the stuff. But to your point, at its core, you have to be willing to try, fail, work at it. And then, again, these tools are more accessible than they've ever been on your smartphone, your laptop, tablet, etc.
Yeah. And it's just a wealth of information, in process for creating the products that I'm making. There's so many things I don't, what's the right order of things, and I don't know, but I can use ChatGPT to help build a plan. Right. Yes. And I tell it what my objective is, and then it helps build a whole plan. It's more than just having access to the information, but it's the organization of the information that I think has really been helpful for me. Right. But yeah, you could get the wrong answer from chat. And so, that could create some hiccups, but it's that perseverance that you keep going. And, it's always true that people look at someone who's done something and they're like, wow, how, amazing how you did this, but they don't always talk about how many times they failed first. And I think that's where the real learning comes, is making mistakes and, and getting some knowledge out of that mistake that you can apply for the next project.
Exactly, right. Like, it's almost like when you're a podcast guy and you realize you triple booked and you're like, oh my God, like, and you got to figure out how to massage that conversation, right? Because like you're supposed to, right, they're taking time out of their schedule, and then you got to navigate, whatever waters you have to. You could have a product that was working on Friday night, and then you're going to go demo it, and whatever could happen behind the scenes, right? And that first impression that you have in front of that buyer, in front of that VP, 5 years from now, when your product's in retail sales, you can have a good chuckle about it. Like, yeah, man, that really sucked. It's the best thing, it's on TV, but at that moment you're melting. Right. And so how you handle that melting moment, it can really, it'll make or break the company.
Yeah. I've had some interesting conversations with other entrepreneurs. Now I'm reaching out to other people making products, which is, by the way, extremely fun, because now that I've made a thing, people are interested in knowing, how'd you come up with it, and what is your plan? And so I'm picking the brains of other people who have had success and kind of trying to figure out, what path would work best for me. And in those conversations, you get to hear about, the things that didn't work, or what they tried. And they said, we had to pivot, in our process and try something else. And so now I can get information from them that'll help me out. But it's really great. I feel like I get to do what you do a little bit now, which is talk to other people doing it and learn from them. And it's really exciting, actually.
It's a lot of fun, and, I hope that, your product becomes, very successful. I hope that you have great opportunity to expand not only your agency, but the products that are for that you're selling, and helping people not have moldy, wetty things after they're done from a long hike or a long day outdoors, because God knows that bacteria and mold can really make you sick. So in your regular everyday life, you found a solution to something.
Yeah, and I have to be totally honest. This is the first actual retail kind of product I've ever made, and my hope for it was, to go through the process and learn how to produce something. Right, go from an idea or a concept and actually get it to a final, product. And I've done that. And the other mission I had was, I want to make this, and then I want to do, I told you I talked to Revelist and the guys at Camelback. I was able to get right in front of those folks and show them something I made and have them respond to me in a way that was really positive. And for me, that was a win, and if I don't sell millions of them, that's okay. I feel as though I've achieved a pretty significant goal of having a vision, creating something, and then even having the company that I was really making it for originally have a really good response to it. I feel like that is an accomplishment, one that'll motivate me to do more things. If I can do one product and get somebody interested, I feel as though I've achieved something.
Well, let's do a shameless plug-in right now and make sure that we get the web link. I'd love for you to have the product showcased on the podcast itself too, and we can, if there's a demo that we can do in a follow-up to see how it works in real time, I think that would help. I'm just this podcaster, but I have a small audience that's growing. But, I release episodes weekly, and I think maybe there's a possibility we could showcase your product to be able to be a little bit more prevalent in social media. Yeah,
I'd love to demo it if you want to connect again.
Of course.
We can do a video, and I'll demo it. But for your audience, DRYEFan.com. It's DRYE Fan, FAN.com. And you can go learn about the product there. You could buy it there. It's also available on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon and look for Camelback drying fan, that's probably the best way to locate it there. So it's available there. And when will this episode come out? Because maybe I can make a code for your listeners.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would say just a couple weeks. I usually try to keep the turnaround time less than a month, because, obviously I want to be respectful to get it out as quickly as possible. I have a little bit of a backlog I want to release as well, too. But I can certainly make arrangements to get it out sooner if you need to.
Okay. Your timeline is fine with me. I'll just I think I can create a code for either one of those so we can push that out with the information of your podcast.
Yeah, and I think, because there's some cool things we could do too. Maybe even we could hold like a special episode and try to get some camping groups that would like to do like an episode special, especially with summer coming around, right? So, or summer in some places already, so let's link up and then let's see if we can get like a group of people that would be interested in that, and then we can kind of make something happen, because I think there's some magic that can get involved with that. I just get to talk. You get to
Sounds great. Man. Sounds great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I've got another product that's in the works, so I'd love to share that with you maybe next time around.
Yeah, let's coordinate something, because I think there's something special we can put together. So we'll definitely be talking Peter Williams, and I think the most important thing is that you had the ability, you saw something in your head, you acted on it. And that's the beauty of this show, is that I get to talk to people like yourself that do wonderful things, and the creators, inventors, and doers that you are and will continue to be.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. Super nice talking to you. I'd love to follow up and learn more about your show too.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for being on the Randomness of Nothing podcast. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Take care.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.